The day I discovered my mother had given my house key to my brother without my permission, I thought I was dealing with a simple boundary problem. I was wrong. What I uncovered over the next few weeks changed the way I saw my family forever. And for the first time in my life, I stopped being the daughter everyone expected to sacrifice everything. My name is Rachel. I'm 38 years old, divorced, and the sole owner of a beautiful 4-bedroom house that sits on a small lake outside of town. I bought the house 5 years ago after spending nearly 15 years working 70-hour weeks as a financial analyst. Nothing about it came easy. I missed vacations, I missed holidays, I missed countless weekends. While most people were relaxing, I was building a career. Eventually, it paid off. When I signed the papers for that house, I cried in the parking lot. Not because it was expensive, because it was mine. Every brick, every wall, every payment. Mine. Unfortunately, my family never seemed to understand that, especially my younger brother, Jason. Jason had a remarkable talent. He could turn every opportunity into a disaster: failed businesses, unpaid debts, broken relationships. If poor decisions were an Olympic sport, Jason would have won gold. Yet somehow my mother always treated him like a helpless child. Whenever he got into trouble, she rescued him. Whenever he failed, she blamed someone else. Whenever he needed money, she expected the family to provide it. For years, I played along. I loaned him money, helped him find jobs, covered bills, offered advice. Nothing ever changed. Eventually, I stopped. That decision made Jason furious. It also made my mother furious. According to her, family should always help family. What she actually meant was, I should always help Jason. One Friday afternoon, I came home early from work because a meeting had been canceled. The moment I walked through the front door, something felt off. A kitchen cabinet was open. The television remote sat on a different table. A chair had been moved. Tiny things, but enough to bother me. At first, I assumed I was imagining it. Then I checked the refrigerator. Several drinks were missing. Food I specifically remembered buying was gone. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I grabbed my phone and opened my security camera app. I rarely checked it. That day I did. What I saw made my blood run cold. Jason, walking into my house, using a key, not once, not twice, multiple times over the previous month. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Sometimes he entered while I was working, sometimes while I was traveling, sometimes late at night. One video showed him carrying grocery bags out of my kitchen. Another showed him sitting on my couch watching television. Like he owned the place. My hand started shaking. I immediately called him. He answered casually, "Hey, sis. Why are you entering my house?" Silence, then laughter. "Oh, Mom must have forgotten to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "She gave me a key." For a moment I couldn't speak. My mother had what I believed was an emergency key. I had given it to her years earlier, only for emergencies. Not for Jason, not for anyone else. I hung up and called her immediately. She answered cheerfully, "Hi, sweetheart. Did you give Jason my key?" Silence, then a sigh. "Rachel." My heart sank. "You did. He's family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That isn't your decision. He just needed somewhere comfortable to relax. Then he can relax in his own house." "He doesn't have a house." Exactly. Because Jason had spent years destroying every opportunity he received, and somehow that had become my responsibility. My mother's voice hardened. "You're being selfish." I laughed, actually laughed, because after years of sacrificing for everyone else, hearing that word felt ridiculous. "Mom," I said quietly, "you gave someone access to my home without permission." "It's not a big deal." The moment she said those words, everything changed, because it was a big deal. A huge deal. And the fact that she couldn't understand that told me exactly how little she respected my boundaries. That evening, I changed every lock in the house. Every single one. Then I reset my security system, changed alarm codes, updated camera access, everything. 2 days later, Jason showed up furious. He pounded on my front door. When I opened it, his face was red. "You changed the locks?" "Yes." "You had no right." I almost laughed again. "No right? This family has always shared everything." "No," I replied. "This family has always shared my things." That shut him up, only for a moment. Then he started yelling. Apparently, he had planned to stay at my house that weekend, while I was out of town, without asking, without permission, using a key my mother gave him. Like it was completely normal. For years I would have argued, explained, defended myself. Not anymore. I simply closed the door. Over the next week, things got worse. Relatives started calling. Apparently, Jason and my mother had created a fascinating version of events. According to them, I was punishing family over a spare key. The truth was much larger. This wasn't about a key. It was about entitlement. It was about disrespect. It was about years of being treated like a resource instead of a person. Then something unexpected happened. One of my neighbors called me. "Rachel," she said nervously, "I think you should know something." What she told me made my stomach drop. Several times while I was away, Jason hadn't been alone. He brought friends, multiple friends. They used my backyard, my patio, my grill. One evening, they even hosted a gathering beside the lake, at my house, without my knowledge, without my permission. I immediately checked older camera footage. My neighbor was right. Jason had essentially turned my property into his personal vacation spot. The more footage I reviewed, the angrier I became. People drinking on my deck, using my furniture, walking through my home, opening cabinets, using appliances. One man even slept in my guest room. I felt violated. Suddenly changing the locks didn't feel extreme enough. I contacted an attorney, not because I wanted money, because I wanted documentation, protection, proof. During the consultation, the attorney reviewed everything: the footage, the key issue, the unauthorized access. Then he asked a simple question: "How many times has this happened?" I counted 32 separate entries. 32? I nearly fell out of my chair. For over a month, my brother had been treating my home like his own private clubhouse. The attorney shook his head. "Rachel, this is serious." Finally, someone understood. The next few weeks became uncomfortable for my family, very uncomfortable, because for the first time I stopped keeping secrets. Whenever relatives called, I sent screenshots, videos, dates, times, evidence. Suddenly the story changed. People stopped defending Jason. People stopped defending my mother because now they knew the truth. One evening, my mother arrived at my house unannounced. She looked exhausted, older somehow. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then she finally said it. "I didn't know he was doing all that." I believed her, at least partly. She probably knew some of it, not all of it. The problem was that she never bothered asking questions. She simply assumed Jason deserved access to things that belonged to other people. I invited her inside. For 2 hours we talked honestly, probably for the first time. In years, I explained how exhausting it felt to constantly be expected to sacrifice, to forgive, to provide, to accommodate. While Jason faced no expectations whatsoever, my mother cried. I cried too, not because everything was fixed, because it wasn't, but because for the first time she listened, really listened. Several months later, Jason lost access to most of the people who used to rescue him, not because I forced them, because they finally saw reality. Without constant support, he eventually had to start solving his own problems. For the first time in his life. Was it easy? No. Was he angry? Absolutely. But something surprising happened. He slowly became more responsible. Not because he wanted to, because nobody else was doing the work for him anymore. As for me, my life became quieter, peaceful, the kind of peaceful I hadn't experienced in years. I stopped apologizing for boundaries, stopped explaining every decision, stopped feeling guilty for protecting things I worked hard to build. The following summer, I sat on my deck watching the sunset over the lake. My mother sat beside me. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. You know, I spent so many years trying to save Jason that I forgot to respect you. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I smiled, because that was all I ever wanted, not an apology, understanding. The day my mother gave my house key to my brother, she thought she was helping family. Instead, she revealed a problem that had existed for decades, a problem nobody wanted to address. But sometimes the people who love you need boundaries just as much as strangers do, maybe more, because the people closest to you are often the ones most likely to assume your kindness has no limits. Mine finally did, and changing those locks turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made, because sometimes changing a lock isn't about keeping people out, sometimes it's about finally letting yourself live in peace.